Right in the middle of this intense apocalyptic storm, the book of Revelation just hits the pause button. Chapter 7 stops all the action to introduce two of the most mysterious and, frankly, most debated groups in the entire book. So in this explainer, we're going to break down who they are and, why they matter so much. Okay, so you have to picture this scene. It opens with this immense tension. You've got four angels at the four corners of the earth, which is really just an ancient way of saying north, south, east, and west. And what are they doing? They're holding back the four winds, which is this powerful symbol for a totally destructive judgment that's ready to be unleashed on the whole planet. So if this huge judgment is about to happen, why slam on the brakes? The text makes it really clear this isn't some random coffee break. Everything stops for a very specific and absolutely crucial reason. Something really important has to happen first before those winds are allowed to blow. And the reason for this pause? An angel shows up with the seal of the living God. Now, back in the ancient world, a seal was kind of like a notarized signature, an undeniable mark of ownership and authority. But here, its main purpose is protection. God is about to mark his own servants to make sure they're shielded from the harm that's coming. So, who are these servants getting this divine protection? Well, that question brings us to our first big mystery, a group the text calls the 144,000. Let's just stop on this number for a second. It's not a vague estimate like a huge crowd or a bunch of people. It is hyper-specific, 144,000. That kind of precision immediately makes you wonder, right? Who are they and why that exact number? And then the text gets even more detailed. It tells us the 144,000 come from all the tribes of the children of Israel, with this perfectly even split, exactly 12,000 from each of the 12 tribes listed here. I mean, the precision is just wild. So all this specificity forces us to ask a really important question. Are we talking about a literal headcount of 144,000 Jewish people, or is this whole thing symbolic? And this, my friends, is where the real debate kicks off. Basically, there are two main schools of thought here. On one side, a lot of people see this group as a symbol for the entire church. All of God's people from all of history, perfectly and completely accounted for. But on the other side, the source material we're looking at makes a strong case for a literal interpretation, that this is a specific group of ethnic Israelites. So, this source builds its case on some key details. First, the text flat out calls them the children of Israel. Second, that list of tribes is super particular and it even leaves out some well-known tribes, which is interesting. Then, a later passage says they're celibate, a unique rule that was never applied to the whole church. And finally, they're called the beginning of a greater harvest, which really implies they're just the first group, not the entire group. So when you put all those pieces together, the conclusion here is that the 144,000 are a literal group of Jewish believers in Jesus. They've been sealed and supernaturally protected so they can be these powerful witnesses and evangelists during that final tough period on earth called the tribulation. But just as we think we've solved one mystery, bam, the camera lens just pulls way back. The vision completely shifts from this very specific numbered group on earth to a totally different scene up in heaven. And the contrast here is just brilliant. We go from a precise number, 144,000, to this, a great multitude which no one could number. I mean, the difference could not be more dramatic. This is not a small, defined group. It's a vast, uncountable sea of people. So who are these people? Well, their profile is completely different from the first group. This is an international crowd from every nation, every tribe, every language you can imagine, and they're standing right in the presence of God. They're all wearing white robes, which symbolize righteousness, and they're holding palm branches, a sign of victory, as they worship God for their salvation. So we know what they look like and we know what they're doing. But that leads us to the chapter's second great mystery. Where in the world did this enormous crowd come from? An elder in the vision actually asks John this very question, which is kind of like the text nudging us and saying, hey, pay attention. Their origin is the key to understanding who they are. And then we get the answer, straight up. This uncountable crowd is made up of people who have come out of the Great Tribulation. They're the survivors. They're the ones who made it through the most intense period of suffering the world has ever known. Now, the Great Tribulation is described as this unique time of trouble, unlike anything else in history. And when you think about that context, it suggested that many, if not most, of these people in white robes are actually martyrs. They're the ones who paid the ultimate price for their faith during that awful time. But, and this is so important, their suffering, as heroic as it was, isn't what saves them. The text is crystal clear on this point. They are saved because they washed their robes in the blood of the Lamb. Their redemption comes from their faith in Jesus' sacrifice, same as it does for every other believer.
Division then ends not by dwelling on their past suffering, but by focusing on their future, their eternal reward. It paints this incredible picture of ultimate peace and fulfillment.
And the promises made to this group are just profound. They get direct access to God's presence. They get to serve Him day and night. God Himself lives among them. Jesus, the Lamb, becomes their shepherd, protecting them from any hardship and providing everything they need. All the pain from their earthly life is just gone. Forever. And it all leads up to this incredibly tender and powerful promise. The source we're looking at really highlights the intimate love of God in this verse. It's like a parent comforting a child. Every single sorrow, every pain, every memory that could possibly bring a tear is finally and completely healed by God Himself. So we're left with this powerful vision of two very different groups. One, a specific company that is protected on the earth, and the other, an uncountable crowd that is redeemed from the earth. So why show us both? What does this dual focus tell us about God's plan for protection and redemption? That's really the mystery at the very heart of Revelation 7.